Hello?
Yes, ma'am. We are able to
Okay.
hear.
And screen is also visible, isn't it?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. I just wanted to spend 5 minutes on yesterday's topic. I wanted to show one file which is mainly talking about vulnerability details. It is very important for most of us. The reason is before you do into any vulnerability assessment or risk assessment or threat assessment, then it is important to know some details which are already available on the public domain. So I wanted to show this website particularly, very important website, and most of our information sometimes may be available in these kind of public website, and they are highly reliable website. So before I go into the CoBIT, which is the expected topic for the current session, I'll just spend 5 minutes, and I wanted all of you to look into this website. There are many websites available, but you look into this one. Now, what does this talk about it? Let me just explain, then you will appreciate. If you see on the left hand side, it says that CVE details. So you can go to simply cve.com. You will be getting access to this website. Now, this website talks about all type of weaknesses we come across every day in our website and in our devices or in our applications or in our framework platforms. So if you see on the left hand side, you can go and browse either by vendors or by products or by vulnerabilities by date. Even yesterday, what happened? Were there any vulnerabilities exposed by some product vendor, and whether what type of severity it is there? So those details you will be able to get. So you can go by vendor search. If, for example, I want to look from Microsoft, I'm taking all the services from Microsoft. So we are using Microsoft Word, we are using Microsoft PowerPoint, Excel, and we are using many of their services. So I do not know how many of their applications are not having any challenges from the vulnerability point of view. So how do I come to know? So you can always come to this kind of website and look for. So you can go by vendor search, you can go by product, Microsoft product, Google, you can go and search on that. Let us try, and then we will see some of those. Our top 50 vendors and their scores. How do they? This is actually the score, number of vulnerabilities and the percentages. If any vendor or any product has this 9 to 10, that means it is a high alerting score, alert for you, whether you should continue to use that product, continue to use that services, either as an individual or as an organization. Now, as an individual, most of us have mobile smartphones, so we may not know what is the challenges we have, vulnerabilities we have in our Android application or iPhone, various applications, or some of the mobile apps we download from App Store. We may not know. So you can always come back and look into these vulnerabilities assessments which are publicly available. So if the scores are very high, you have to be very watchful, very careful. You don't have to do any vulnerability assessment. Somebody is already doing this, and it is available in this kind of report. So this is a very nicely done report. You can go and look for any of that. So let me just go and open any one. Microsoft also has. So let us go to vendors. Now, when you go to these vendors, now you see all the vendors we have this. Now, if I'm using Oracle, if I go, how many products they have? 29. How many number of vulnerabilities they have? 6814 vulnerabilities. And how many products? So let us just go and check one. Microsoft, if I go, then it will take me to this. And if you see the year wise, they have provided the details. Some of the vulnerabilities which are there on DOS, they are existing from 1999 onwards. So they may or may not have completely closed, so you can always go. And what type of vulnerabilities they have, you see this Excel sheet. So this is related to DOS, this is related to code execution, this is related to overflow, memory corruption, SQL injection related to XSS, directory, HTTP response, bypass. These are all different areas in which they have found the weakness. So if you are working in any one of these areas, or if any one of these is impacting your business or impacting your day-to-day activities, you should monitor whether there is any patches happening. So you can always go and click on that and you will come to know. For example, I want to know this now, in the recent past, what are the patches, what are the vulnerabilities it has? 2019, they have recorded almost 668 vulnerabilities. So I can go to any one of these and then check what is the vulnerability status. So let me go into any one. Just let me check and show you. So I will go to code execution. So this one, the latest one, how many such things are? 270 code execution related vulnerabilities they have in the Microsoft. So let me go into 270. You will get a detailed understanding of that. So these are the IDs, and this is the vulnerability, execution code overflow, memory corruption, the date on which it is published. It is there from 2019, 10/10. This was identified on so and so date. Updated, they have been doing lot of changes. The score is still 7.6. So it is up to you now whether you want to use this, be aware of this vulnerability and use how practically or based on your reactions, you can always take some call. You can make a good decision as an organization or as a project team or as an individual. So then they will also give lot of details on how the other things, confidentiality, integrity, availability. So if there is any problem or any challenges, they may highlight it here. So they say what kind of actions you can take. Complexity is very high, access is remote, so only when remote people they are doing access on, then they will have this problem. But whether they can get any access, no, they cannot get any access. There is a weakness, but nobody can get an access to your system. Access is always when you have a remote access, only this kind of problem comes, but they are not able to still get the access, but there is a weakness. So they are working on that. They must have already removed. So 7.6 is the score. Now when you look into this is 9.3, execute code overflow. You can read the detailing. A remote code executional vulnerability exists when the Windows JET database engine improperly handles objects in memory. Now this is what is very important when somebody is using database engine. What is that database? Windows JET database. If some project is using Windows JET database engine, they should know that there is a weakness if you are using the Microsoft JET engine database. And what is the problem? Database engine remote code execution vulnerability, and this ID is unique. So you can go into little more detail of this and then find out and do some research on that. Accordingly, you have to take the action. Like that, there are so many such type of vulnerabilities are already available in this public domain. So if you are using Android, you can always go and check here vulnerability version. You can go to vulnerability check and then simply give and you can also download. You can copy the results. Why this is important? Because now you know the weakness. You will be able to identify the security control. What type of security control you have to establish to minimize the data risk. Yesterday we spoke about one big picture, how the owner can if he has a awareness on the vulnerabilities, he can always develop countermeasures. He can always establish the security controls. Once you have a security controls, you can minimize the risk. Once you minimize the risk, the adversaries or the outsiders, hackers, they will have very less opportunity to break into your system. Fine. So that is how you should use these kind of data or information which are available in the public domain. Use it. Otherwise, as an organization, you may have to spend time and effort, money to get the vulnerability assessment done. And some of the tools again available, maybe you have already done yesterday, Metasploit. So some such type of tools are also used by individual groups or people to manage the assessment, testing, and to identify the threats which are going to be causing some kind of risk to the system. So this example I just wanted to show yesterday, and these are called actually exploit kits. So whenever they use this word called exploit kit, you have to be very careful. It is useful for both the hackers and also people like us who are not hackers. Now, how hackers can use this information? Now they are also getting to know that there is a vulnerability like this. Okay. So now they will write a program to exploit this weakness. So for hackers, this is a very good source of information. Now somebody is already showing that there is a weakness. Now they will become more now responsive to understand how they can now create a threat to come into your system. So it has both advantages and disadvantages, but as an individual or as a society, I would definitely utilize this information to create my threat profile accordingly, and then prepare the risk management strategy. Okay, so please use these kind of reports and try to go more deep into the weaknesses, number of weaknesses you have in your system, and study about those weaknesses before you have a risk management strategy or risk mitigation strategy. So this I wanted to explain it yesterday, but I couldn't, we did not have time. So this should be a continuous reading. You cannot learn everything from one day, because you have to continuously monitor. If you go here now, as I said, you will get so many users, so many vendors, so many products, and so many services. They are under scrutiny like this. So you will get every information. Only thing, we should use only the relevant information useful to our requirements, and accordingly you will be able to minimize the risk from your system. So use these standard documents and utilize effectively. Now there is also one more Excel sheet which I got from the same website. So here it gives vulnerability listing. It will also give some what kind of errors and what is the type of product versions. And if you want to go for more, now this is called exploit kit. It is an Excel sheet. It comes as an Excel sheet, again a report from the same website. In some other menu you will get this, and you can always see what are those type of threads. These are different type of threads. It is called Hanzuon, Angler, Arky. These are different forms of they are giving names to the attack they are doing. So if somebody says that you have a virus called Angler, or there is a spyware called Angler, you should immediately come and check it. Now this was actually against this thread. This is the vulnerability. So you can always go back and understand more details from this link. So these are different type of threats they can cause if there is a weakness and somebody has already done it. So if you see, it is a huge list. So this is called exploit kit. And whenever they take any action and whenever they do any corrections, they will also update on that. So it is easy for you to monitor such kind of threats which are happening. So this has threats, this has vulnerability details, and this is also giving clear information on the vulnerabilities. So you can use this type of details. As I said, this we call it as exploit kit. Everyone who is working on vulnerability assessment, they may refer this. It is very useful. Someone who is creating the threat profile, again they will use this one. Someone who is working on risk mitigation strategies, again they may refer to these kind of documents. So I hope you would be able to understand many more such details once you look into these type of documents. So with that, now we will go into the presentation. I will go to the presentation. Just give me. Okay, so any doubts on the earlier session? As I said, please put it on to the now at the end of this session. I'll try my best to cover as much as possible. Otherwise, you can always send an email to me. I will address it later. Now, what is this CoBIT? So let us go and understand. Again, this is another standard, or the sometimes you can consider as a guideline if you do not want to follow it completely. So you can always use the best practices given in this and given in this CoBIT standard and try to implement it. Again, it is giving a lot of support to establish a well structured governance in the organization. So when we talk of governance, it is information system governance. So we are not trying to create a structure for project governance, because project governance is managed by the project team, or we are not trying to establish a governance for the organization in terms of how to do a business. So that is again not a type of governance we are looking. So we are looking to establish the security system, information security. Now, how do we establish a governance or the structure for managing the information security? Now, once you have the governance, how we can also manage the risk management, which is coming out of various threats in our processes. So this CoBIT is mainly talking about those governance structure. So what is CoBIT? CoBIT is an acronym. It stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. So it is mainly talking about your security controls. Though it is not written here as security, these are the control objectives. So there is some defined objective. So you can always refer to those objectives and see whether you want to implement those objectives in your organization. What is one example I can see? We spoke in the previous section. We want to establish.
You have not changed, ma'am?
Huh?
Are you showing the PPT or the website? CVE?
No, I came to the PPT. You are not able to see the.
No, you are not shared the PPT.
Oh, okay. 1 second. Oh, I'm sorry. Good that you told me. Okay, now you are able to see?
Yes, ma'am, very able to see.
Okay, I just started with that. So I was talking about governance for information security and risk management from CoBIT. So let us go and understand more. So what is the definition for CoBIT? So CoBIT stands for Control Objectives for Information and Related Technology. So it is talking about the security control objectives. Let us take one example. What is a control objective for emails? So if I want to have a policy for how to use emails in the organization, then you have to identify that as one of the objective, and for that objective you may define more number of controls. Okay, so your control objectives are defined based on what is your business and how you want to prioritize the business and align those business objectives to your information security objectives. Okay, and whatever information security you want to implement, they are also related to other technologies which you are using in the organization for business. So it is as an independent entity, it will not exist. So you are always having information and related technology in the organization. So instead of calling control objectives for information and related technology, we generally use the term called CoBIT. And it is mainly focusing on the governance, and it is developed by an IT governance institute and promoted by this in another institute, ISACA. So it is a standard setting body in the areas of information governance, control, security for professionals. So that is the motivation of this ISA group. So it is highly focusing on the governance, whatever we spoke about ISO 27001. So it may not be in that line, but however, it is again addressing your information security in terms of governance and in terms of control, and how do we also establish security so that you can have a best practices for risk mitigation strategies or risk management plan. So, over the past decade, so this CoBIT, how it is evolving. Even CoBIT is also evolving in the last few years. Initially, they started with some activity, but now they have grown into enterprise level of information security governance structure. Now, when we say enterprise, it is not addressing an individual requirement, not an project requirement. See, I'm using more examples related to companies and organizations. So please, if you have any questions at the individual level, you can always assume that as an individual, if you are doing that activity, this is definitely applicable. But CoBIT is not applicable to an individual level of managing a mobile security. Generally, it is not applicable to CoBIT is not applicable to at that level. It is applicable to enterprise level. Why enterprise? We, as an organization, as an enterprise, we do various complex operations every day. Now, if you go and just stand and walk around any organization, take an example of car making industry. You just go to any of their floors, shop floors, or go to an assembly section, go to an store management section, or you go to an inventory section. You see many people are doing many activities, transferring files and entering some data of some product, writing some proposals, writing some document where they are giving the invoices. Lot of information sharing happens in those organizations. Fine. So the way how do we manage these type of activities with a clear structure on the information security. So CoBIT also has started thinking how we can apply not to an individual but to an organization as an end-to-end organizational process. So the CoBIT recent structure, it talks about enterprise level, end-to-end operations in the enterprise level. So that way it is very useful to apply to any organization now. So this control framework is for IT governance. So when you say governance, it defines the reasons why you should have a governance, whether you should have a structure for managing the IT security. So people can say that, no, why should I have a team for managing the security, information security in organization? I will simply write a document, everybody should read, everybody should start implementing. It will not happen. It will not happen in any big organization. So you need a defined group, defined structure. That is what we call it as a governance. Fine. So they have certain higher responsibility to manage the information security related tasks in the organization. And whenever we say there is such type of structure, you also have stakeholders. Who are the stakeholders? The organizational leaders. Who are those leaders? You can call it as managing directors. You can call it as president. You can call it as chairman of the company. Whoever, where they are the decision makers and they are also leading the business. So they are actually stakeholders. In some big organizations, even stakeholders are all shareholders. They are actually providing lot of support to the running of the organization. So stakeholders list again is very generic. So whoever is part of the organization, they can become part of stakeholders. Now there are certain families, they are holding the organization. If you go to Reliance type of organization, maybe even family is also involved. So the stakeholders can be family members also. They have certain percentage of in their businesses. So family members can also become stakeholders. So it will also talk about what needs to accomplish. What are the goals we have to accomplish when it comes to information security. So that is how there is a different perspective, different approach from the CoBIT point of view. So now to the higher level of governance. So how it has evolved? It has evolved over a period. And now if you are talking all these, even though there is a stakeholder, what type of stakeholders and what to accomplish and why we have to define governance to a very higher level of enterprise governance. So we are not talking at very individual process, individual team. We are talking of the whole organization as one entity. So it is a enterprise governance of IT. Emphasizing on stakeholder needs. Again, each big organization has stakeholders. So it is always on the top priority, and it is end-to-end coverage. So when you are taking end-to-end coverage, starting from all the activities which are done in the organizations, they become part of the this IT governance. So that is why we call it as a whole enterprise. So what is the mission? Mission is to research, develop, publicize, promote an authoritative, up-to-date, internationally accepted IT governance control framework. So it is an internationally accepted, and it is also not just implementation. You do some kind of analysis, research, then you develop customized to your own requirement. Then you can also go public and say that you are CoBIT certified organization following best practices from the CoBIT. And also you can have a clear governance which is authoritative and up to date. That means you are the state of art technology, you have state of art processes you have built into the organization. So that is what we are actually using as a mission for the implementation of the CoBIT governance. So the new one is COVID-19. Maybe recently I have not looked at the latest updates. So if there are any changes, and there may be small new versions also in the one. So this is mainly meant for adoption by enterprises. So if you have any question, okay, I have a big laptop, I want to implement CoBIT, please do not think from that perspective, because it is a huge investment for an individual. So we have to manage CoBIT for the bigger organization or the enterprises. At least they have very critical operations they are planning, and day-to-day use by business managers, IT professionals, assurance professionals. These are all quality assurance professionals. So the reference, you can always go to this IT Governance Institute CoBIT references. There will be lot many information. So what is this frameworks talk about it? So CoBIT it has best practices repository for IT processes. So information technology processes, all the type of operations you do in an IT companies, you can. Does it mean that you cannot apply to non-IT companies? No, it is not true. Even though non-IT companies, you have manufacturing process, there are some part of organization you may be following IT operations. So you can always apply to those IT operation or sections, this CoBIT. Again, based on how many people are working in those IT sections. If some organizations like maybe Tata's or maybe examples, if I want to give Mahindra's, they're all big organizations. Even though they are not IT companies by itself, they have one company itself as an IT company or one wing as an IT company. So they can always follow the best practices for their IT management. So it covers IT management processes. It also covers IT governance processes. So how does it constitute? It has the good practices from international level acceptance by various experts who are part of making this policy defined or documented. It is management oriented. As I said, it has a high on top preference to the stakeholders. Most of the stakeholders are from the higher level of corporate decision makers team. So they it's not like you and me who are working just as some professionals at the very bottom level. When I say bottom level, it doesn't mean that bottom. I am saying that we are not as of now CEOs or managing director or maybe the C-level executive in the companies. So it is highly management oriented. So the strategy is always discussed in the management to implement. Supported by tools and training, sharing knowledge and leveraging expert volunteers. Continuously it is evolving, so it is not one time strategy. This COBIT framework, it has all these characteristics. It maps strongly to all major related standards. So in fact, my earlier company when I was working, so COBIT was integrated into our ISO 27K. So we had many controls, security controls defined based on COBIT, plus also based on ISO 27K. So we have a combination of other standards which are all highlighting the same focus, same emphasis on the security. So we have combined and made it as one security policy document, or maybe security policy control, like that. So you can always have various standards combining together and define as one policy. So you do not have to have too many mission statements, too many vision statements, because you are following more than one standard. And it is a reference, it is set of best practices, not an off the shelf cure. So if somebody thinks that, okay, anyhow there are good practices, can I just implement it? No, you may get into a completely disaster mode. These are all set of best practices. Those best practices may or may not be relevant to your type of organization. Now, for example, I am working in vegetable selling market, like a big bazaar. Or maybe such a big market mall, where I more focus on selling the vegetables. Now, should I apply this same as it is from COBIT, just because I have 500 employees who are working for my vegetable company, selling company? No, it may not be as it is applicable. So you have to customize it if you have IT operations. If you don't have IT operation, COBIT may not be able to help you so much. You can always use as a reference and develop your own good practices. So it is not directly as it is applicable. You have to refer to that and take best practices and try to customize to your own organization. So this framework, if I want to look at it, you can just get a glimpse of how it looks like that. As for the enterprises, it has to be aligned with your businesses. So any security standard, if you are implementing in an organization, there is a hand-to-hand shake between security team and the business team. So if they do not talk each other, if they do not understand and communicate, then your information security structure or policies will fail, and it's a disaster to the company. So whatever security framework, information security framework standard you are implementing, it can be ISO 27001 or COBIT, it has to align to the business. Business, whether really can get a benefit from the information security, you have to always weigh it. As I said, an example, vegetable marketing, vegetable selling. Now, if they are not using a single information, information sharing or computers or information processing system, then why they should apply this COBIT there? Fine. They are not today using any of the technology to implement their practices. They are just doing humans. They come there and then probably they buy it and they sell it. You go to vegetable market. Who is using any computers to sell their vegetables? Even though it is a vegetable market, big market. Okay. So you have to look into what is the business goal, how they are implementing the technology for their business. If there is a technology involved and that technology using various assets like information assets, then you will have a scope for implementing the COBIT. If there are no information assets, if there are no such critical assets which are to be protected, then there is no point in investing money for COBIT implementation. So it helps the IT. What is IT? Because you are using the information technology for delivering the business results, you are using the IT as a support for your business. So that IT, it helps the IT deliver the information that an enterprise requires by helping align IT with the business. Let me give you an example. Even though you are using now Amazon, Amazon is heavily dependent on, again, technology. Even though you are getting a product by just ordering, physically they come and hand over, you may give cash. but at the back end, they are using technology to collect the request from you, and they're passing on those requests to vendors or the suppliers. Those suppliers, they will do the packing, they will send it to Amazon facility. From the Amazon facility, it gets packed, then it will come to your location, and then they will come and deliver it. So though at the outset it looks like they are doing some item handling and item delivery, they are dependent on heavily on the technology. That technology uses the IT, information sharing, information processing, information tracking, information monitoring, where your item is delivered, how it delivered, what center it went, who is the vendor, when he is shipped the item. So only when there is an IT, then how this IT is delivering the information, that an enterprise requires. So Amazon requires the IT to deliver the various status of the information for those items you have ordered. So it will help. This CoBIT will definitely help to align that IT with their business goal. So it will help you. That is why today we are able to get most of us who are using Amazon, we are highly satisfied by the processes they are using. I'm sure they must be using such kind of best practices to implement for the implement their business goals. So it will help us. We don't get any items damaged regularly. Here and there may be one or two because of various reasons, but their day-to-day whatever interactions you have with Amazon, it's a very satisfied response we get from the Amazon. So depending on the business, you have to align the IT, information technology, because you are using technology. Now let us see how the CoBIT is aligning the business. So again, it will collect the business requirements, what you are supposed to do for information security, what type of businesses it has to be implemented. Some of the business processes you may not want to implement CoBIT at all. Okay, so within the organization you have to categorize those requirements. Then you have to drive those business goals for the type of IT resources. For example, you're using servers, big servers, big networks, remote data centers you have. So all that become part of your IT governance structure, and they are used. Why we have to be worried about that? Those data centers, those servers, customer devices, or the devices used for various business operations, they all follow certain processes. Fine. So they are all used by certain processes, and they are actually delivering the result to the various enterprise organizations. Again, they will go back and then they were satisfying or the complying to your business goal, business requirement. So the CoBIT has to CoBIT has to exist in each of these different type of business processes or activities in the organization. So one is to collect the requirement and then ensure that your processes are highly managed and governed, and also deliver the requirements which are established for the business goals. So you have to go always in hand with the business goals and implement the CoBIT. Let us go and understand more. So this is your one slide. Again, if you understand this slide, you understand the whole CoBIT. I don't have to explain any other slide. So let us spend some time and understand. If you see, there are 5 figures. What are these 5? So this is an overview of CoBIT. First one is how the evolution of CoBIT happens. That is history of CoBIT. How did COVID also grow over a period of time? Then comes the benefit. Okay, then a CoBIT, everybody says that this is a best practice model. And what is the benefit I am going to get it? So you have some benefits here. And this is actually the evolution of CoBIT. So let us see here. Let us see also benefits, whether it can help my type of organization to implement. So you can always look at this and understand, and then only go for CoBIT implementation. The other one is CoBIT architecture. So how the CoBIT structure looks like. So you can always go and then look at those. So this is actually the CoBIT architecture. in the sense how that document is segregated or how it is constituted. So you always come to know various sections or various guidelines, domains which are defined in this document. So it is more from the documentation part of it. But again, it is very important because you will know the scope of all the activities where you can apply the CoBIT. Then comes the 5 principles. So these are 5 principles. So on that 5 principles, CoBIT works. So we can also study what are those 5 principles. Then there are certain supporting or enabling features. So we have those enterprise enablers which are there in the organization, or we have to constitute these enablers if we want to successfully implement the CoBIT. So there are these 5 sections. We can go one by one and understand. Now, if this is understood properly, then you do not have to read anything extra. So you have understood the CoBIT. So let us go one by one and understand. So mainly all these, now all the 5 components, they actually help you for establishing a very good IT governance. So that is the framework under which we work. So the focus areas, it is like the pentagon shape: strategic alignment, value delivery, risk management, resource management, performance management. This was actually the philosophical framework of IT governance on which it started. Okay. And now lot of things have been added into this framework, and today it has become an enterprise, end-to-end enterprise-wide IT governance model. So the first one is this evolution of CoBIT. If you see here, so it is not, no, it is growing. Fine, this is actually growing. So if you see 1996, it started with simply doing just an audit. So if somebody has already done IT type of activities, it simply goes and helps the company to do an audit or assess the current practices and see if there are any risks in their processes, if there are any weakness in their processes, if there are any threats in the processes. So it is more from the validation of the process and verification of the process. Either it can be qualitative or quantitative. Generally, audit is always seen as a qualitative analysis. Okay, it's not from the heavy testing on the application, but the process verification. So it is a audit perspective. Then they started building, developing some control. How we can define a control? If there are any risk, what type of controls one can define? What kind of controls one can establish? What are those objectives? So they developed a model, CoBIT 2, in 1998. And they have added not just audit, also a control part of defining the controls for managing the weaknesses, managing the risk, managing the threats in the organization. Different terminologies, but however, the main focus was to define the control and manage the control. Then they have also added the management perspective. Management means you should have a structure, you should have a team, then you should have goals. Those goals should be aligned to your business one. So you look at from the management perspective. Okay, so you have a sponsor from the organization, so you can see to it that this investment is successfully taken care of. So various other managerial actions like reviewing, then verifying from the management whether what you are doing as an information security, whether it is really useful to the organization or not, and how much we should prioritize, how much we should develop, all that from the management perspective so till here maybe management may not come into picture at all, but once you have a management, now the decision makers start involving. They start looking into how the business is getting advantage from this IT information security implementation. Then comes Then comes the governance part of it. So you have a well established structure, a separate team and separate roles and responsibilities who also lead these initiatives in the organization. So you bring in actually the governance part of IT governance part, and that you grow it to the whole organization. So it is not just few certain processes or only few projects follow these good practices, but every process or activity, business function which is aligned to the which where the security is very important, confidentiality or it can be availability or integrity is very important component, then they can start following the IT control objectives of philosophy of the CoBIT, and they can establish a very good risk management strategy for their functions. So now it has become every function in the organization can use these philosophy. So it is a governance of a complete IT enterprise level IT structure. So this is how it has actually developed over a period of time. So to start with, it has risk to validation, and now you have big managerial involvement, stakeholder involvement, and stakeholder are on high priority because they are aligning their businesses with the information security goals. So a full-fledged framework is available for you to implement it. So any organization they want to now implement CoBIT, they will have very good advantages of using this CoBIT best practices. Again, as a reference, this is not a standard. Okay, what are the benefits? Okay, if we use all that, what are the actual benefits which are documented? I can avail by using this CoBIT. So it is consistent with generally accepted corporate governance standard. So what this CoBIT highlights is that, so it is highly accepted to the corporate industry, where the businesses are given high prominence and business goals are given high prominence, business results are given high prominence to achieve the business with less loss to the company, with less reputation, loss of reputation to the company. You can always implement these best practices. So it is consistent with the corporate governance standards and helps to meet the regulatory requirement. This is very important. You cannot implement any standard which is against to regulatory requirements. Even in India has its own regulatory bodies. Laws are there for implementing various IT type of activities or operations in the company. So you have to follow those regulatory requirements. So CoBIT is aligned to those type of requirements. So this is one of the benefit we talk. And again, there is a common language between IT and business. So IT, whoever is working in an IT cell or IT department, they will not talk very differently. They will not do any expectations separately when it comes to alignment with the business. So the business and IT has to go together. So the IT has to understand that this is the business focus. All their processes, all their security controls, all their security objectives should be in line with the business objectives. Create more holistic, integrated, complete view of enterprise governance. So it should be an integrated and holistic approach, okay, to manage the information security in the organization. It defines the starting point of governance management activities with stakeholder needs related to. So again, as I said, that they are giving more focus to stakeholder needs, and they are actually aligned, or they are taken into give high consideration when they are creating the governance structure and also the management activity. So we have very good number of benefits when we look into CoBIT implementation, and it will help you to achieve the security objectives for the information security objectives for the organization. What are the 5 principles on which it works? One is big organizations have many stakeholders, so it will help you to consider and create the structure based on the stakeholder needs. So it will definitely comply to the business leaders or the stakeholder needs of the organization. and it covers the complete enterprise. So even though you want to do an investment, so it will try to understand all the operations, IT operations which are there in the business, from the human resource capital, HR department to all the project departments, different functions. It can be sales department, it can be your projects, different projects, or it can be financial department, or it can be a testing department, or it can be any other departments which are there in your organization. So it helps you to cover the security aspect for complete enterprise. And you do not have to apply separately for each department. So it is a single integrated framework. So the framework constitutes the policy for all the departments to follow it. So it is a single integrated approach. And it also enables the holistic approach. So you will get maximum benefit. So when they are applying these guidelines and best practices, they look at as a holistic approach, not it is like a half cooked vegetable. So it is not from, so if you want to eat a banana, you have to eat the complete banana to get satisfaction, fine. So like that, if you want to get the maximum benefit for the information security, you should have a complete holistic approach. And CoBIT, it helps you to do the holistic integrated approach. Finally, it tries to make sure that the governance is not part of management. So the governance is separate from the management. So there is no conflict between the business management needs or the IT governance needs. Okay. So these are very clearly separated out. So it helps you for day-to-day operational requirements. So these are the major 5 principles. Which looks like a strategy, tactics for the implementation of IT information security. So there are certain case studies I have given here. So you please go to this, use this link and look into this link. You will get to see some case study by some industry. So how they have implemented CoBIT, you can go and then look into this. But as I said, even though it is giving the maximum benefit for the whole organization, you need not to apply as it is. As you can definitely give for small section which is using IT operations or to any kind of business process. So you have to think whether it is relevant to your business. If it is relevant, please go ahead and then think of applying the CoBIT standard practices to such organization. Now let us go one by one. When we say it is meeting stakeholder needs, who are these stakeholders, and what is the how we have to look at it as a stakeholder needs. So enterprise, it exists to create value for their stakeholders. So any stakeholder, any organization, if you look at it, they have internal customers and external customers. Who are external customers? They are shareholders. Now the shareholders, they don't come and every day come to the organization. They don't come and work with us. They don't come and participate in any of our day-to-day activities. But they are also the stakeholders of the organization. Employees, as employees, we are all internal customers. We go every day to organization, companies, and we work there. And we have certain roles and responsibilities. We perform our duties. And at the end of the month, we expect that they will pay us money. So we are also some way, we are also stakeholders, but we are internal stakeholders, and we work for the company. So because of both internal and external, today that enterprise is, that company is there. If there is no internal customer, if there is no external customers, then it will, the company will not exist. So it is not just stakeholders, even the customers. There are suppliers, there are vendors. So many such external people will also talk to the company. So there are both internal, external. All of them have some kind of responsibilities to work with that company. They have some expectation, and we as a company, we have to deal with that. Consequently, any enterprise, which is commercial or not, will have value creation as a government objective. So what is the first objective this CoBIT has? We have to create a value creation. So the governance objective is whoever may be your customer, whether it is an internal customer or external, you have to create a value creation. So that is the philosophy of the governance objective. So all these stakeholders, internal or external, is to drive, their driving force is to create the values for their needs. So that is the government objectives. So how do we do that? There are different ways of doing it. When you give benefits realization, the stakeholders will be very happy. Your company, if it is having profit, the not only the shareholders, even the internal customers like our employees will also be very happy, because we will get more bonus, we will get our salary hike. So the benefit realization can come into as a reward, as more project, or higher salary or promotions. Many ways the rewards can come to many ways. So we are definitely, these are values we expect as the customers, as the stakeholder. Risk optimization. So because we don't want to face any threat to the company, so we have to take our risk mitigation strategy, implement it as an optimal solution, not just as okay, there are risks, it's okay, we maybe once in 5 years only a cyclone comes in Chennai, why should I have many of these security features built into the company? Now some companies can think of like that. That means what? We are not looking for a best risk mitigation strategy. So when few years back there was a cyclone happened heavily in Chennai, many organizations wiped out because they did not have any backup strategy, they did not have any risk mitigation strategy. So you are not looking the risk very thoroughly, and risk optimization or the mitigations are not done optimally. Resource optimization, again, this is an investment. All this risk are resource management of risks or management of resources. So we are looking at as an investment, and also we are looking at a cost to the company. So you have to utilize the best productivity from all the employees or any resources for that matter. If you are using a server, you do not want to keep that server in idle. Fine, CPU idle we don't want to do. We want to utilize that server maximum, so that our productivity increases and the project utilize more those servers, and we get more profit from the project executed. So all the resources, it can be human resources or any computational resources, they should be optimally utilized. Now these are some of the values we have to create for the stakeholders, either it is an internal or external. So once you do those value creation, you will also realize the benefit when you implement those type of policies in the processes. So it will provide you an optimal solution. It can be in terms of cost, it can be in terms of speed, in terms of space, whichever may be your goal. It has to be an optimal optimization of that goal realization. So the value creation is defined to different type of customers in different forms. So at the end of the day, it has to be an optimal resource cost while optimizing the risk. So that is how you can look at it, all these three components. So meeting the stakeholder needs, if we go further, little more drive into that, you are just bringing down this all these pointers. Stakeholder needs, it can be benefits realization, or it can be risk optimization, or it can be resource, into your enterprise goals. Then further they are decomposed into IT related goals. Then they can be further divided into policy level or document level or task level or user level or role level. So this can be further broken down to different type of goals. Need not to be only enabler goal or IT, but you make it as a small unit so that everybody has some way of accountability to execute those type of activities. So you have a goal for such type of small activities. So stakeholder needs to have transformed into enterprise's actionable strategy, because all the needs have to be, these needs have to be, should be decomposed, or I would say it should be segregated into smaller tasks. He may have a bigger goal, but those goals cannot be as it is executable. So you have to define a smaller goal at different levels, at enterprise level or at function level, or maybe even further smaller as an enabler level, and execute that. And then finally you will be able to transform their requirement into an actionable in the organization. So CoBIT goals cascade translates stakeholder needs into specific, actionable, customized goal. So these not written type of goals can be now converted into specific, actionable, and customized goal, where you have a monitoring, you have a every day reviewing, every day monitoring, every day you can look into some of those actions, doable actions. Using that PDCA cycle, you can implement all these customer stakeholder needs into the specific type of goal, actionable goal. So it can happen at the enterprise level, or it can happen at the, as I said, function level, or at a further level, smaller goals. So the second point is that we want to cover enterprise end to end. So it is not just for a function. So how do you cover? You define various roles, various activities, various type of communication between department to department. So you have from the top level CEO to all the operations which are happening at the very bottom level. So each user or employee in the organization, they have certain tasks, they have certain responsibilities to perform, and they have to execute those tasks as an individual. Now these are all actually done through various roles and activities defined in the organization. So you can always convert the stakeholder needs into the doable activities from the. So that is how you can cover the enterprise end to end, all the activities, which definitely CoBIT will help you to create such kind of control objectives and controls to manage these enterprise end to end operations. The third one is, how do we apply the single integrated framework? So it is a complete in enterprise coverage. It provides a basis to integrate effectively with other framework. This is very important. So it will give you some way of managing the other framework, other standards, other practices. So you have various frameworks like ITIL, ISO, PMBOK, NIST, and CO. So these are all different frameworks and standards. Whichever organization is using, you can still work with CoBIT and work with all other standards. It integrates all knowledge previously dispersed with different type of this ISA institute frameworks, which is Risk IT, Val IT. These are all different frameworks they had developed. This CoBIT sponsored organization. It is still possible to integrate, and it is already integrated into the existing model. So it is a single integrated framework. So you do not have to worry about too many quality documents or policy documents in the organization. So how fourth one is, it is a holistic approach. It defines a set of enablers to support the implementation of comprehensive governance and managed system. This is very important. So you can always look at what are those enablers from the best practices defined in CoBIT, and accordingly you can customize those enablers in the at your organization. So you can have processes. How do you look at those enablers? Enablers can be some policies, it can be some frameworks, it can be processes, organizational structures, some culture, ethics, behaviors, people, skills, competencies, services, infrastructure, application, information. So all these are part of your enterprise enablers. So you cannot say that I don't want to include processes for my CoBIT implementation. It is not possible. All the relevant important processes which are adding value to stakeholder needs should be part of your CoBIT implementation. So you can see here I have given already. So it takes care of all those. So what all becomes part of this holistic approach, and what are they? So when we say principles, policies, frameworks, they are nothing but they are the vehicles to translate the desired behavior into practical guidance for day to day. So all these policies are at the apex level, they become a document. They are the guidelines for day to day operation. So it is very important for the holistic approach. And defining various processes to do operational activities. So you again define a set of practices, activities to achieve certain objectives. These are the control objectives of CoBIT. So you, by doing that, you are able to actually implement the various day-to-day operational activities. So you define certain processes. So in CoBIT, you have such domains, and you have so many processes defined in the CoBIT document. You can always refer to that. There are more than 35 such type of processes. So organizational structure, it is nothing but an your CEO or the management structure, the decision making entities who are involving higher level decisions for the businesses. So it can include CEOs, CIOs, CFOs, such type of senior managers. And the culture, ethics, behavior, they also be part of your developing the CoBIT culture in the organization. So they are part of, who are those part of that? Individuals of the organization, very often underestimated as a success factor in the government and management activities. Okay. We generally don't consider culture as part of many organization. Why? Because we think, as an individual, I am coming to office, I'm working, and why should I talk to all the team members? It is waste of time. But generally, team to team interactions and encouraging a healthy atmosphere in the organization is also part of the project success. Okay, so when you are talking about holistic approach, we should consider that culture, ethics, and personal behaviors are also very important. Now, CoBIT helps, it addresses those kind of objectives. Information, we don't have to talk. Services, infrastructure, applications, again, these are all important assets. These should be part of your holistic approach. People, skill, competencies, again, these are part of various objectives we have to develop for the success of the business. So if you see holistic approach, it is talking all the components which are relevant for a good business. Okay. So how do we separate the governance from management? This is how the CoBIT helps you to do it. So where is management? Where is governance? If you see here, these are the business needs of the stakeholder. Now the management, which is not involving in day-to-day activities, they are trying to provide you guidance. They will do evaluation. They will do monitoring of the implementation of the information security policies in the organization. So this management organization structure, which involves the CFOs, CIOs, or the CEOs, they are actually giving you continuously the guidance. So that is separate. They don't involve in the day-to-day activities of the IT information security implementation. So this is completely isolated. They may involve once in 6 months, they may involve once in a year, they may involve as and when it is required. So the governance is completely isolated. Whereas the other part, day-to-day operations, so they are actually, you are having various policies, various procedures, various processes, various users, various roles to manage the those defined information security practices. Now they will follow this same our PDCA cycle type of process chart, and they do the various activities they involve. So management of these activities are separate when it comes to the governance part of it. So in most of the organization, it is not just for information security. for any type of new initiatives, we try to have a two approach philosophy. One is the governance, which involves the higher management. Other one is the actual operational management, which involves the other managers and the team leads and team members and other type of employees. Okay. So government in most practices, it is the responsibility of the board of directors under leadership. It need not be only board of directors. You can have different type of higher management. Sometimes director may be the CEO. CEO may be the chairman. CEO may be the managing director also. So governance in how the management is defined. It takes care of the clearly. And CoBIT, it defines the distinction. It clearly says that this and these are very separate entities and there should not be a conflict. And management is the responsibility of executive management under the leadership of CEO. So if you have a CEO who is part of this governance, then you may have some other people who are working for CEO can also do the day-to-day management of the management of the IT security implementation. So this is actually the detailed description of that. We can always go and look into. So the main important activity of governance is to guide and review and also evaluate whether the results are achieved as per the objectives. So they look into more of a managerial decisions. When it comes to the the management group, which looks into defining the plan, building the plan, and then executing those processes in the organization. It can be an IT related activities or it can be security related activities. So the other group which will mainly look into the PDCA cycle of activities, whereas this group mainly talks into evaluating, guiding or monitoring the performance of these major IT security related activities. So both exercising governance and management effectively in practice, it requires appropriate using all enablers. So once you go into read this document of CoBIT, you will come to know different type of enablers which are defined. And for successful implementation, exercising both governance and management practices is very important. So this is principles. We talked about these principles. What are those principles? We just talk all these 5 principles. Fine. Now we talked about stakeholders, governing enterprise and single government, holistic approach and separating governments from management. If we are able to manage these 5 principles, then you will have a very good the process information security implementation in the organization. So what are different enablers? Again, we spoke about. You can define various type of enablers and you can decompose this also into again and again and make it as a very simple, understandable type of document or a policy or a procedure to day-to-day operations. So these are all nothing but your enablers. So just coming into the last few 1 or 2 slides. So if you see the good practices, they cover 5 domains, they cover 37 processes. So these are all different, different way of giving in enterprise IT, some way of differentiating. This is just an example. So you can always go and then look into each of these sections and try to understand. Then you will come to know how these are defined, the objectives or the domains or or these are defined. So these are the various sections you can always see and then understand. Okay. Once you get into the document, probably we'll have more details. So this is how the structure of the CoBIT happens. So you have 5 principles. These 5 principles are managed by stakeholders. So stakeholders, these using the stakeholder needs, you follow some principles. These principles are also aligned by the enterprise enablers. So enablers have to align to these principles, which are again guided by these stakeholders. And if you see, these are all the processes which we defined at the very bottom level for implementation, and they actually align to all these enablers. These enablers are part of bigger sections, and if you break down these processes, you will get so many such smaller level processes, and this is your process dictionary or organizational structure information or culture, behavior, ethics type of smaller level processes. So you can have one objective, two practices, three activities, inputs, outputs, and then this is responsibility chart. So this is how you can also align from other standards to your existing processes, which is having another standard, and make it as clearly visible to the people who are following these enablers. So this is another view of CoBIT component structure. So this stakeholder needs have to be aligned to these principles, and again these enterprise enablers are talking to this principle, which is a holistic approach, and stakeholder needs, these are all stakeholder needs. They should be one of the principal component we are talking. When it comes to separating governance from management, what do we mean by that? That means we are talking of the management activities separate, and these are the this is governance activities, and these are all management activities or management processes, management enablers. If we talk from the COVID point of view, these are also called as enablers. Okay, so these enablers become at one more level high. They look like this. Some of them are processes, some of them are policies, some of them are organizational structures, some of them are actually information. So you can always break down these enablers into further levels separately. But there is a clear distinction between the governance and also clear distinction between the management of these. So I think with that we have covered all the components of CoBIT, though I did not go into exact clear control objectives. I was able to give you an overall picture of how CoBIT is helping the organization with these basic 5 components and how it can be implementable to your organization, which is following any other standard. So with this, I think I have come to the conclusion of my sessions. If you have any doubts, probably we can take if it is time permits. So is that okay? Can we go now forward for the presentation, or I leave it to the?
Yes, ma'am. I think if there is still anything that has to be taken, you can continue the topic. And okay. There are some that are asked in the chat. Then that can
I have completed the sessions now. So
okay, you can we can ask the participant, post your question on chat window. Please, anyone who has the audio access, please don't speak on audio. Please post your question in chat window, please. Okay, you can answer, ma'am. You can read the question and then answer it.
Okay, ISO 27K is mainly for controls, but CoBIT takes care of governance and controls. It is looked from a very different perspective. ISO 27K is not just only controls, I wouldn't say. There also, if you are working in, at least in my previous organization, we need support and commitment from the management. So we have to always look at management to provide the support. So there is a governance structure even in the management. So we have to always look at it. Not only the controls, but also the support. Otherwise, who will pay money for implementing the information security in the organization? So you need a governance. Only way it is not highly focused the way the CoBIT is defining. Cyber security is part of which domain in 2007? I talked about implementation, operation implementation and all. So you can go there. That is one part in the ISO. or you can, it depends on which, if you are implementing the human physical security, there is again, no, you can consider if it is a network security again. So the latest one, though I have not looked at it, it is one of those domains where operation, acquisition and maintaining those, no, you can always implement in that. What level you want to implement, you should do. Okay, how asset valuation is being done? Now, this is a very good question. Now, how do you do the asset evaluation? Now, first of all, you have to identify what assets you want to value it. Okay. Now, there are in a small organization, every asset becomes a valuable. But when it comes to bigger organization, they may categorize into high sensitive or highly valued items. What are those highly valued items? Maybe data centers or the project wings or the project space or the some of the location. There they do not want to compromise any security. So they want to categorize based on the business need. Now, when they categorize these, they have to identify all the assets. Let us take an example in our own house. Now, how do I do value estimation of my items? I have a TV, I have a fridge, I have maybe a big computer system. So the rest also I have various small furnitures, I have utensils, I have no small other type of toys in my home. Now, if I have to do a value evaluation, now I look at it, the very important assets I don't want to compromise. In case if I want to go out, I don't want to keep everything open. I want to lock it and go. So which one I don't want to compromise? Like TVs, like fridge or the computer system. These things I don't want to expose it and go out. So I may keep it in a separate room. Now, why I am keeping? Because the value of these assets are very high. So how do I am doing valuation? I am looking into the existing market value of that asset. So if I lose that asset, I have to buy from the market. So I have to pay so much to buy those assets. So I don't want to lose it. So it is a simple estimation of the market value of that asset on that day. Okay. Now, if it is an item, you can value it. But if it is a report, if it is a document, now you have to come out with some strategy to value in terms of cost, value in terms of effort, value in terms of any other parameter which you can measure, quantitatively measure. If you can do that, do the summation of that, and then you take a call whether how much you want to lose in terms if there is any risk, if there is any threat which is attacked or which is executed on those asset. If somebody comes and takes away a glass in my house, I don't mind. I mean, I am ready to lose it. But if somebody comes and takes away computer, I am not ready to lose. So I will take a control objective. I will implement the security for those computer system. But when it comes to some small glasses, pens and pencils, books, I may just keep it open in the hall or maybe outside also. I may not take any control objective of defining control objective or security measures on that. Okay, risk is what you calculate for every threat. Yes. It is definitely a risk you have to see when you are calculating when you are assessing a threat. Threats are nothing but some of the events it happens. Now, after that event happens, you will not be able to recover those losses. So you have to identify those threats as part of your risk management as a potential risk. Once you have a risk, you can prevent. Fine. So the risk management is as a mitigation strategy to minimize that such kind of threats happening to the system. So CoBIT model is more of a generic model. What are the CoBIT is a reference model because it is best practices. It is not a standard. You cannot say that whatever is written in the CoBIT, you have to implement it. So you can always customize to your organization, document it, then you agree to that document. Yes, we are going to follow these guidelines as part of our information security policy. So then it becomes one. It is in that perspective, it is generic. But when it comes to your organization, it becomes a very specific to your organization. So that cannot be a generic to other organization. So in that way, it is not generic. Once you start implementing in your organization, it is a complete specific policy. Every employee of that institute has to be following it. But when you are using as at the outside, yes, it is a reference, it is a best practice guideline. How you want to interpret that and implement it, it is up to you. Do we have a standard list of? Yes, you have a standard list of controls in CoBIT. That is why I said there are control objectives, and each control objective will have some guide, security control. So it is in that way, it is a very highly defined document, very well organized, structured document. CoBIT, you can always follow it. In fact, many of the service companies where they are giving the IT service management activities, where they are doing the services to US customers, they have BPO organization, they have KPO organization, they follow CoBIT very extensively. Where do you find the basic risk for IT? No, I did not get this understand, because these risks are not general. Now, as I said, this example what I showed in the screen, these vulnerabilities. Now, from the vulnerabilities, you can always come to know the type of threats. Now, these are nothing but your generic risk you are facing because of these vulnerabilities. So you can always use these kind of public domain websites to find out the risk for your organization. Now, based on which type of vulnerabilities. Now, if you're using Microsoft, now Microsoft has certain vulnerabilities already defined in this document. Okay. Now, if every employee in your organization is using Microsoft product, then it is a risk for all the employees. So it is an IT risk. Now, if you are using some tools for HR management, now that tool has any weakness, again, it is a risk you can get from this. Now, these are public domain information. Now, some of them are not available as it is applicable to your organization. So our organization should have a team. That is why the IT ISO 27K and also the CoBIT, they say that there should be a governance structure. There should be a team, roles and responsibility to manage the information security. So your information security team, they will identify these risks in the organization. They will identify risk related to various activities because they are defining the information assets for your organization. So if they define information asset, they will also try to identify if you do not follow, what are the threats going to happen. And if there are threats, what type of risk happens. And how as an organization, you have to address those risks. So you will get those information from the organizational information security team. Now they will follow certain templates, guidelines, standards, and there are certain documents which will also give you a history of the risk which are happened in the past organizational processes. So they maintain these documents. So you have to refer to some specific organization. No organization publishes this data outside the organization. So you should be a part of the organization to identify. Otherwise, you have to follow these general public domains to identify the generic type of risks. No, you have to go into a little more detail of CoBIT cyber security, which are especially data privacy and cyber security covered. As I said, these are defined as part of the management There are two separate entities in CoBIT. One is the management, other one is the stakeholder. So IT governance. So this data privacy, cyber security, they're all defined as different enablers. Different enablers in the management domain. Yeah, yes, no. Security controls are defined at the organization level. They do not differ from project to project. Now, if customer has specific requirement, now I'll give you one example. Now you are working for a defense project of government. Now government defense projects are very, very different compared to general customer projects. So they may have certain limitations on how your project should be executed. So they may provide project specific security controls. So the example is, as I showed you in one of the morning session, you may create that project team in a specific location where other employees are not allowed. So what is the security control you are establishing there? Physical security control, at the access control. So these can be physically visible. The data center, separate data center for that project. So that data center will have a separate server, separate network connectivity to those project employees. So you have a security control definitely implementable for from that perspective at project to project. Otherwise it is a very highly investment cost. It may not be a very cost effective solution if every project start having separate controls. So we try to identify common security controls at the organization which are approved by the management CEOs, and they are generally applicable, like password policies, email policies, or how you can utilize your USB devices, whether you can bring DVDs from outside. If you bring a DVD from outside, what type of DVDs you can bring. These are all some of the common security controls you can establish as a policy, as a process in the organization, which are common across the project. Okay, what is the best mechanism to ensure that virus patch management policy is updated during situation for the employees who are using their personal system for official work? What is the best mechanism? No, I cannot answer a specific question like this, because it depends on what type of application, what type of environment you are using. Now, many people who are working from home today, now they are going through different type of networks. So depending on the type of the network you are using to connect from home to office, you may have to have a security controls established. So organization may ask you to accordingly use the antivirus softwares and network protocols, or maybe even the communication network highly secured. So it depends on the type of environment in which your projects are executed, and it depends on the type of the environment in which you as an individual working. Okay. Examples of controls given are infrastructure level controls. Technology controls may be different. Yes, technology controls may be different from project to project. But again, in this technology controls, if you are using the common technologies like Microsoft Office or Google, or some of the common email platforms, you can have a common generic. As I said, if it is a mission critical customer specific project, you can define your own technical control. In general, any organization, we try to make it as more generic, which is applicable to across the projects, mainly from the maintenance point of view. So there are certain controls which are little specific to the project, but it is doable. I'm not saying it cannot be done, but from the maintenance point of view, from the implementation point of view, it becomes a very cumbersome if we have too many project control objectives. But however, if your customers are different, your project deliverables are different, your project objectives are different, and there are restrictions from the customer side, yes, you can always have a project control objectives very different from the other projects. Yes, all these data security, data privacy, infrastructure, everything can be governed under CoBIT 5. There is no depth. That is why it is called the enterprise end-to-end security implementation. No, security does not depend on OS. Today we are migrating from from a legacy system to now almost cloud-based open systems, open public systems, mainly because of various advantages. So there is no such specific security as applicable. What we have to expect is, when we are talking, I'll give you one example, then maybe you may be able to visualize it clearly. If your organization is highly dependent on cloud-based projects, means you do not want to invest too much on your infrastructure, you are just an application developer or a project developing company, then your employees are highly skilled all as an programmers or as a application developers, and all your infrastructure you may buy it as a service from the cloud. Now when you are taking cloud based infrastructure, then you have to always use internet to log in into those systems, either remotely or virtually, etc. So when you are thinking of such type of environment for your organization, what is the best approach you can follow? You can follow a private cloud based environment, or in a hybrid cloud based environment, or wherever there is a sensitive data, you have your own data center within the organization and only use those services on the network which are not highly confidential for confidential operation. So you have to have a strategy as an organization, how my security can be established, how my business goals are achieved if I have to use security when I'm working in a cloud-based environment. Or as an organization, you may not do any cloud-based approach. You may have your own private data center within the organization, again using a cloud-based approach, but it is not going through an external network system. So what is the security? Again, you have to customize either CoBIT or the ISO for your own environment. But in any specific scenario, implementing these standards or best practices always advisable. So there is no such common identified standard, I would say. You have to collect the best practices. Example, in my previous organization, we had implemented ISO, we had implemented CoBIT, we had implemented SAP, we had implemented CMI, because we had 300, 400 customers. Now we wanted to satisfy all the customers. Now every customer has a different type of project. So we wanted to have a complete integrated approach for our quality management. So we had implemented most of these good models. So our security was a highly secured environment for the customers to implement their project. So many of our projects did not have any problems for running 1 year, 2 year, mainly because of this integrated approach, security approach. Okay. No, the CoBIT ITIL is very different. CoBIT is different. ITSM is not a standard. ITSM is basically how you are creating your management system. It is called Information Security Management System, but they are following either the standards of CoBIT or ITIL or ISO. Okay. The principles are same. Everyone is talking about how to establish a security, information security, cyber security in your organization. But the approach they are giving as a guideline or a best practices, they are coming from different baskets. So they have differences. Some of them have implementation difficulties. Some of them have different challenges when you come into implement for a bigger organization. You have to customize a lot, because ISO is a standard. if you write or document anything as per ISO guideline, when you go for assessment, they always compare against those standards. Whereas CoBIT, they do not compare any, it's not a standard. So CoBIT is very different compared to ISO 27K in the assessment point of view. No, see the process-based risk management, you may get some templates. Yes, they are available, but more and more you should understand the type of activities for which you want to do the risk management or the processes for which you want. Accordingly, you can always search the templates. I'm sure there are many risk management templates available, but they have to be customizable to your requirement. So I have told you the COBIT explanation. No, so please look into that. There is some of these letters are it is not just go by one letter to letter. Okay. Okay, educational institutions, what is the suggestion? Security approaches. Now, what are the important assets you can think of for an educational institution? Please look at it. You as a owner of, you are a stakeholder of an educational institute, as a director or a chairman of an institute. What are important assets? Important assets are your financial data. So you have to manage these servers where you are keeping the information. So security is important. I cannot compromise on that. Second one is all your marks card, student marks, student grades, student fees. Again, student related information you do not want to compromise. Again, security is very important. So whether you are calling it as a university or calling it as an institute or calling it as a college, only the number is very scalable. So if it is a university, many colleges are affiliated to university. Okay, so in general, university is perceived like that. So if there are so many colleges, each college has certain confidential data which they have to manage as part of university. As I said, the funding information, financial information related to sponsoring projects, or some of the students' data, as I said, grades, question papers, answer sheets. Now these data, they don't want to leak it to the public, and you all have come across. So educational department also has some of these security challenges. So if you are not able to manage that, then you have to go for a framework, security framework, how to manage this using any of these guidelines. You may not have a very rigid ISO 27K framework as you are doing for an financial company, business company, but definitely educational institution can learn from these security principles, either from COBIT or ISO, and accordingly they can develop a small security organization governance in their institute. Okay, I think most of the questions they are saying are answered. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. If you think that this information has helped you, please try to implement at your level, because we are handling today many of our gadgets. They are very prone to these hackers in various forms. Your smartphones, your computers, your laptops, your tablets. If you are able to implement some of these practices, best practices, like having a authentication, user access, proper access control to your devices, and physically you are controlling your devices properly without giving those details to outsiders whenever they ask for, email protection, SMS protections, not answering to anybody who is calling you for information. These are some of the security features you yourself can build in your own devices, and make sure that that learning you have taken out from this session is very useful to managing security at your level. Otherwise, individuals are losing money today. They are under threatening because of the hacking happening from the various side. As I said, now the groups are working to exploit people. So you should be very careful. Thank you so much. Thank you. I think I have closed all the questions. We can close the sessions now.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. Thanks a lot
Yeah,
for
thank you.
the